All right, let's be honest here. Price predictions come and go around this space. They get thrown out like garbage, and 9 times out of 10, they never actually happen in this video. I'm going to be talking about how much 2500 XRP will be worth in 2025, and you might be asking, Nick, why are you choosing that amount? Well, it's because if we look at the rich list around XRP, that is like the sweet spot on how much XRP majority of the wallets do hold. I know that there's a lot of other wallets out there that hold a larger amount, and I don't think that 2500 should be the goal for anyone. In fact, I think that everyone should be holding at least 10 to 20, 00, and again, the more you can hold the better. But it all goes by how much you could actually afford, and how long you have been investing into XRP in this video. Like I said though, we are going to be talking about how much 2500 XRP will be worth by 2025, and we're going to go in depth on this. We're going to be talking about it, and we're not just using price predictions, we're actually utilizing math mixed with the previous price action, the, information that we are given on the price charts with data, and we're just going to go over it, right? We're just going to go over it. Regardless of how accurate it is, or not, I will give you guys my thought process on the whole thing, and like I said, we'll go over everything in detail. So with that being said, welcome to the channel, everyone. My name is Nick, for those that are new to the channel. Hope you by the end of this video you do become a subscriber, and if you guys haven't already, join up on the free Discord down in the description below. We almost have 10,000 members, so why wait? It's free. Join up now and get access to a ton of information. So like I said, listen, if you have been around the space for a little bit of time, you should have a lot more XRP than 10,000 for an example. And the reason why I say that is because if we look at the all-time chart for this, right? I have been around this space for a while, and we've had a long time to accumulate ton of XRP under $1. I mean, we're talking about going all the way back to 2019, 20-some cents, sub 20 at some points in time, 30 cents, sub 10 or 20 cents. Sorry, for a very long time back here, like 15 cents, 17, 18. I know that sometimes we got a few opportunities under like 15 cents. I know that during 2020 we hit about like 11 cents or something like that during the the 20 apocalypse of XRP, aka the SEC lawsuit. It did hit about 17 cents on some exchanges. And during this whole, bull run recently, or I should say bar market into the bull run, we had access to XRP around 30 cents. I know on some exchanges it did hit like the mid 20-cent region, but this whole area here would have been an incredible time to just accumulate as much XRP as you possibly could. Sub 50 cents and even sub $1. Because if we go back to July of 2023 for an example, when we got XRPs, not security, hit about 83 cents. 82 again, every single exchange is different. I know that we wicked to like 93 cents on some of them. But, for the most part, we had a ton of opportunity to grab XRP sub $1 and even sub 50. Now I know, like said, 10, 0 XRP to some people is way too expensive, and I get that, understand it. But you should always target as much you possibly can get while it is cheap now. It's hard for me to even advise buying XRP at these levels because we had the opportunity to buy it at such cheap levels, so it's very hard for me to be like, hey, get XRP now. But if we're really kind of looking at XRP today, 500 if you did buy during the bear market versus today, well, you're looking at some pretty good profits. Now, most of my prices in this video when we talk about XRP is going to be tied back. The narrative that's kind of floating around with XRP flipping. Ethereum, that's always been a big narrative. It's always been big talking subject. And it's because XRP was the number 2 project for a very long time. And in fact, there's actually an opportunity in this market that you got the chance to screenshot. XRP actually being the #1 project, that's right. It was more valuable than Bitcoin in terms of market cap at one point in time. But that's Avery long time ago. Is it something that could happen? Again, if it does flip Bitcoin, it would be absolutely insane. But I don't think that it happens this cycle, but I do think that it definitely does have a high probability of flipping Ethereum and becoming the #2 project yet again in this market. And if we go over here, have December 2nd, 2024. XRP returns the third largest crypto after 4-year battle with the SEC. And that's another big thing, right? We have the SEC completely changing in 2025. On January 20th, we have Gary, gender stepping down. We also have a pro-crypto admin. So, we could see some very big moves for XRP and for even Ripple, the company that utilizes the XRP ledger. And I do think that will definitely be a very big catalyst for XRP along with potential XRP ETFs. I know that a lot of people are still looking at the Ripple IPO as a big catalyst. I don't really look at it as a catalyst behind XRP because it doesn't have really anything tied to XRP outside of just, Ripple, a company that utilizes the XRP ledger and XRP going, public. So with that, there is a lot of catalyst. There's a lot of discussions, there's a lot of things to speculate on, adoption, partnerships, announcements, this, that, whatever. But it's definitely going to be a very interesting year for crypto. It's definitely going to be a very bullish year for crypto as well, in my opinion. And as we do think about that, right, we have to think about where are these altcoins going to go in terms of price. Wise? Well, we go and look at, past charts. And I'm not looking at the USD chart here. I'm looking at the dominance chart. Listen, I made this post over, or Google Sheets over here, when we were at like sub 5% dominance. Okay, we are now well over 3.88% dominance. We did wick to about 4.75% dominance, the same exact level in which we did find a lot of resistance back in 2016, a bear market, mind you, before it did hit its low in 2017, and then went absolutely parabolic. Now, XRP is known for high, dominance levels. I mean, if we're going to the 2020 timeframe, it looked like XRP was about to break out in a big way. It was sitting at about like 5% in terms of candle body closes on the 3-week, but it did wick to about 6% of market dominance. And the 6% level, if we're taking a look at this, is kind of like the mid-range. I would argue like 6% is the mid-range on this overall chart here. But it did have a very large percentage. Dominance back in like 2017, 2018, sitting at about 31. 3% back here during January of 2018. When the all-time high was realized it was sitting at about 17.89%. So XRP is known for having some high dominance levels. Now I have this area up here. It's a 12.4% dominance. I'm just rounding down to 12%. For the sake of this video, reason why I do have this is a level on the chart because of FIB extensions mainly. Okay, so this would be, the golden ratio outreach essentially on this chart. So that's why this is on the chart now. You might be saying, well, 4% is significant for XRP considering the fact that it hasn't hit that since going all the way back to 2019. And I would agree with you if the narrative wasn't the fact that XRP is going to flip Ethereum, which is a big narrative that's been floating around for years now, I get. Right? Does that make it a 100% possibility or guarantee anything like that? No, but I do think that it has a high probability. I would argue that it has like a 50-50 chance, which I know that that's kind of gambling odds, but it's still something to kind of go off, especially considering the fact that, if we go back just a few months ago, if I said XRP was going to retain #3 in this market in December, people would say, you're crazy. You're insane. It's not going to, so think that XRP could just move up one, spot. Here is not too crazy to me, and if we're thinking about that, well, Ethereum is holding about 13. 2% market dominance right now, and it has been dropping significantly, and if we go back to just June, it was sitting at about roughly 18.73% dominance, and during, roughly December of 2021, if we're going all the way back to that time 2237, there's a lot of times within this that it was holding about like 95 to 19 to 20% dominance. So that's pretty significant. So I'm going to go off of two levels, okay? And I added them to the chart. It's 5% and 12%. So I'm going off of the 5% because we're right around 5%. Mark here, I would, round it to 5% because of the candle body closes here on this chart going all the way back to 2020. And then I also have 12%. So going off of these two levels on this chart, we have 5% at $35 and 7 trillion market cap. Right now we're trading well over 3 trillion. We're sitting at about roughly almost 4 trillion at the time that I'm recording this 73 trillion. So I'm just going to go off of the 3 trillion just because it's a nice midline to go off of. It's the all-time high from 2021. So at 5% with a 3 trillion market cap, we're talking about $150 billion market cap for XRP, a 262 XRP, which we already broke over this cycle, which would be about $6,550 for $2,500 XRP. Now 5% at 5 trillion would be about $250 billion in market cap for XRP, a $437 XRP. And that's going off of almost $111,000 for $2,500 XRP, sitting at about $925,000. Now we also have 5% at $7 trillion in terms of the total market cap of crypto. That would be a $350 billion market cap for XRP, roughly a $612 CXRP. And with 2,500, you could be looking at about $50,300 now at 12%. This is when things get a little bit more interesting. And remember, 12% is not the 13.2%. Plus that Ethereum is currently holding, and I would argue that Ethereum is probably going to hit about roughly almost 20% again this cycle. So if we're thinking about 12%, it's still on the low side. If we're talking about XRP having a historical bull run breaking into new all-time highs, all these big catalyst XRP could potentially go to 15–20%, market dominance as well. It wouldn't surprise me, but we're going off 12%. And at 3 trillion, it's a 360 billion market cap, or 629 for XRP at 500 XRP. You're talking about $5,775, 12% at a 5 trillion total crypto market cap, 600 billion at $10, and almost 50 XRP, $26,200 for your bag of 2,500 XRP. And then we also have 12% at 7 trillion in terms of a total crypto market cap, 840 billion for the market cap of XRP. And that would be about $14.69, $36, $7.25 for your $2,500 XRP. Now where do I think XRP is going this cycle? And what do I think 2,500 XRP is actually going to be worth? Well, if we go down here to my main bull targets, my initial here are $5, which would mean your bag is worth about $112, $500, and then $7 as well, which would mean your bag of 2,500 XRP would be worth about $1,700. And then my extreme bull run targets are about $10, which would be $25,000 for your 2,500 XRP. And then also $15, which would mean $37,500 for 2,500 XRP. Now there's always the possibility of XRP going much higher. I've been hearing $20 to $30 for a while. If XRP were to hit $20, we're talking about $50,000 for $2,500 XRP. And at $30, you're talking about $75,000. But I do think that the safe zone would be this $5 to $7. So in my opinion, $2, 500 or 2,500 XRP, how much will it be worth in 2025? I believe that it will be worth between $12,500 and about $17,500. And also if we did have the market cap of EX or Ethereum right now, currently we would be trading at about $839. So your 2500 XRP would be worth about $2.975. And if it was at the all-time highs, it would be trading at about roughly almost $10 exact. So we're talking about roughly, currently speaking, $4,275. Could XRP go up substantially from these market cap areas? 100%. But the question is, how much? Higher could it go, because at a $20 XRP, just going off of today's circuit aiding supply, you're talking about roughly almost $2 trillion market cap. And I'm not just basing all of this off of market cap, because I know that a lot of you out there will say market cap doesn't matter. I'm just thinking realistically here, and I'm also thinking conservatively. I don't think that XRP hits $20 this cycle. I would love to see it, because I will still be holding a moon bag at that time. I'm just saying, for the sake of this video, my safe bet is $5 to $7. And do I think that too? 500 XRP is enough to retire yourselves or get rich? I don't believe so. At least in the short term. The long is a path that it's filled with unknowns. It's filled with, a lot of things that we don't really know what's in store for us. So I always keep a moon bag. I think that everyone should always look to accumulate as much they possibly can during the bear market. That's because, during the bear market, you can capitalize the most utilizing your profits from the previous cycle. So that's why I always encourage everyone to take profits during the bull run, regardless of targets. That way you can reinvest during the bear market. So to really kind of summarize this, my safe bet on 500 XRP would be around $5 to $7. I gave you guys my targets already. This cycle, which they're down here, these are my targets, but my safe bet is the 5 to 7. And I'll even kind of highlight this as well, because this is basically, in my opinion, the green zone on which I do think that this is the most probable area in which XRP does hit. And going off of that, I mean, you guys can calculate it for yourselves. We'll be right around roughly, 122,000, roughly $300 or so, to 17 through 500 roughly. So I mean, there's a lot of unknowns still left in this market as well during this cycle. So XRP can go substantially higher than my target. So don't just be everything off of my targets, of course. The market can change overnight. Anything is possible. The space is very volatile. Don't take this as financial advice. Utilize it as educational purposes only. But I'm definitely looking forward to seeing what XRP does. This cycle, I do think that it is going to new all-time high. And I do think that's going to surprise a lot of people. And I do think that there's a probability of it definitely flipping Ethereum and becoming the #2 largest project yet again, like it has historically in the past been. So with that being said, I hope that guys enjoyed this video. If you guys definitely leave a like, subscribe to notifications on more free content, you